Welcome to our Fire Up Weekly Wednesday webinar, sponsored by Newfields Ag, where we bring innovations in your fields. We encourage you to visit our full-service website, newfieldsag.com, where you'll find a complete listing of Newfields Ag products, product descriptions, videos, use and applications instructions. Just about everything is on there. New to our site is our full product guide as a flip book. You can find that in the resources tab. So our product guide is now sitting on our website, so you can find the product guide, the product pages, the products, and as well as some yield information tied directly to those. I'm your host, Bob Kessler, Vice President with Newfields Ag. Today's topic is the LeafTech on-demand handheld leaf tissue scanner. Joining us to share his expertise this morning is John Maskow of LeafTech. Welcome, John, and thank you for presenting to us this morning.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for your team to allow me to be on today. And hopefully we'll get some good stuff. And please, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt. And we just want to make sure you get as much information as you can out of this. And if there's other things we can do, like please let me know. I'm John Maskow. I'm a co-founder and CEO of LeafTech Ag, and we've been around for about 4 years now and have gotten several, have had a lot of fun the last couple of years with this. So basically what we wanted to talk about more than the technology was more of what you can do with it and what can be accomplished with it. And what we're really focusing in on is the ability to target nutrient management for optimum crop production. And the ability to do that is being able to simply and timely and targeted gather information. And as you can see, to collect field data is very simple. It allows you in about 10 to 15 seconds to collect a data sample from a plant non-destructively and then go on to the next location. Each scan is geo-referenced, and you can go back to that same plant because it's non-destructive, and you get the plant-specific data from that location as you go through. And the beauty of this allows us to do hundreds of data points within a field. What we're able to do with our technology is that we have based our scanning output based upon an average of 3 different labs, and that we've been able to replicate the 11 macronutrients up to a high level of consistency. And the main thing that we're able to do that the labs can't is that from our scanner to scanner, we talk about variance, and we have less than 1% variance from on average from scan to scan and within our scanner base. And that's across all of our scanners, across all of our certified crops, across all the nutrients. And every scanner is tested before it hits the field so that we know that we are giving a consistent answer of what's happening in the, with that plant. And the reason we pride ourselves on that and we focused on developing that was that we want to make it simple, timely, and targeted to hit the nutrient management for ours is determining the right nutrient at the right amount and placing it at the right location at the right time, because during the growing season, the plant's nutrient use changes over that time, and if we short that nutrient values that we need, we shorten the yield potential of that plant. Right now, if you're doing any tissue sampling, you'll go out into the field and collect a composite sample. Then you have to bag it, tag it, and then you have to wait because you have to ship it, process it and ship it, and then have the labs analyze it, and then you get the results. And what generally results is you have a destructive method. You can't go back to those same plants to see what happened. And it's just a general spot location. And the issue with that is that you can get lab analyses from 2 different points of the field that's composite, or you can get 100 different, close to 100 different samples. And this is a 50-acre field. And it only took about an hour and a half to take the 2 data points, but an hour and 45 minutes to take the 95 data points, because you walked from your vehicle to that spot to collect that one sample point up in the center up in the north side of it. And then when you go south, you're walking that field. And as you're walking that field, you can be collecting scans across that field to get a full field value and field view of what's going on there. And that the value of that allows us to start looking at each of those data points based upon a user-defined sufficiency. How do we rank in that field? And what we've done this year is we've implemented the ability to have a user-defined sufficiency report that you can select a specific scan, or you can collect a group of scans and get the sufficiency levels based upon your reporting table that you wish to use. And to pull full circle with this is that we are able to pull the scans in a very quick and timely manner and very simply. And then we have the ability to export that data into crop management softwares like FYRE-UP that allows you to then identify the zones and then prescribe what you need to apply in those areas, and then come up with an application map all in less than an hour after collecting that data. As an example, in targeted management, we can do the traditional method of applying to that whole 50 acres the same rate, or we can use a combination of satellite looking at NDVI and say these acres look a little stressed, so we're going to sample them, or with our method of being able to collect across that field in a very efficient time frame and really target apply only where the nutrients are needed at. And this is an example of going with the targeted nitrogen, which is very simplified. This, we can identify nitrogen, but of the 11, we also identified potassium, boron, and zinc that were under our sufficiency levels that were established by it. And the other cool thing about the technology, it allows us to kind of look at and understand the whole effects of nutrient management and nutrient movement through the plant. We literally can go each leaf every day or every week to find out how are the nutrients moving through that plant non-destructively. So we know if we applied something that it give the desired effect. And what I like to coin as this is the technology is a kind of a Ronald Reagan of technologies, because we want to trust that the nutrients are getting there, but then we can verify whether they did or not. And the other part of it is that because we are a hyperspectral sensor, we also are able to start looking at different crop characteristics and start looking at maybe the presence of diseases. We're looking at also bricks this year. So what generally happens with these, what does it work, and how do you guys make money, and how do you work in better placement of your products? And so when we look at this is one of our customers from this last year, Forefront Ag here in Indiana. They went through and did the sampling across the field, identified stress areas based upon nutrient deficiencies, and then they targeted applied what was needed. And they were able to reduce the stress in that field and meet the plant's needs, reducing that about the stress by 34%. That correlated into a $144 return or savings for that field. And then we also use this to help us identify, do we even need to apply something, and move those dollars to some other activity. And this is one of our DFA members, Dairy Farmers of America group that we're working with up in New York, and they're in a high nitrate area. And before they applied nitrogen on their last pass, they checked it, and it was determined that they had adequate nitrogen, so they didn't apply nitrogen and didn't affect the yields, but were able to take those dollars in time and push it into a better timing and a better application of a fungicide, and didn't increase the nitrates in the soil because they had adequate there. And if the plant can't use it, then it gets pushed in the soil, increasing nitrate levels. So what have we done over the last year? And basically, we've done over 100,000 scans last year. We beta tested 26 different crops. We've got a different kind of design. In addition, we have two different designs of our scanners. We simplified the data export. We really believe that being able to take the simple data collection data that we're having and push it into crop management softwares gives an actionable piece of information for our growers. And then we also started working with our customer help center. We really want to make sure that our products supported out in the field with one-on-one training and support. And then we integrated with FYRE-UP, which is a crop management software. Basically, what we got coming in 2025 and occurring now is we are increasing the number of certified crops which means that we've gone through a full season with thousands of data, thousands of scans, and hundreds of lab analysis, and we feel comfortable with the models working very accurately. And then we have a user-defined sufficiency reporting, which when you onboard this season, you will select or identify a sufficiency table for each of the crops you're working with, so that you can then have a quick report to send out. We've integrated with Field Analytics, which allows us to quickly move through from our data into a prescribe and apply platform. And we've got additional beta crops and characteristics. One of the characteristics we're doing is going to be bricks. Then we're working with the marketing and sales pieces to support it. And we're increased the production processing capacity to 1 million scans. So at the end of the day, crops talk and we speak their language because we can understand what's going on inside of them as far as the nutrients and usage across the season, so that we can better respond to what their needs are and putting the nutrients where the crops are. With that put me at, cool. It looks like I'm in pretty good shape there. So if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask it.
So John, one of the questions we got yesterday at Christie's meeting was, how early can you go out with a scanner on the crop? You know, is it V5? Is it V2? And if the plant is pretty small, like in your video there, do you maybe have to put a few extra leaves in to get a good test, or can you just use the small leaf and it'll give you a good enough test?
Basically, you can use that's why we have a scan bed. You can put whatever size leaf you want into that, and it will measure just the leaf area. You can actually go from VE, start as little as VE. It's a little tougher because it's smaller, but you can start with V2, V3. Depends. We want to be convenient for your management activities. And that's where, as soon as that comes up and you want to start doing side dress or whatever, and you want to get that data, you can get that done. You may disturb those plants a little bit more than as they get a little bit bigger, but size really doesn't matter on the leaf size area, because we're actually doing wheat, a single blade of wheat, but you need to get a few more than those, but we can go down to that level.
Yeah, and the reason he was asking was, you know, because he says, what if we don't want to wait until we foliar feed? You know, if we go in earlier, find a deficiency, would it be early enough to go in and, like you said, either side dress or spread dry, you know, over the top of something, you know? So yeah, that's that really opens your window for treatment other than just foliar feeding.
Correct. And that's one of the key things. Like you saw, I think we're at V6, V4 to V6 in that example that I showed. And but yeah, we can go down even smaller than that. It's just, like I said, what makes practical sense for what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Go ahead, Jared.
John, this is Jared. Can you give some examples of some observations that you made as you're walking through the fields pulling tissue scans that you normally would have missed by either not being present in the field, or even correlated with the tissue results versus what you've seen physically seen?
Well, I think one of the key things was the variability across the field, the nutrient uptake. I think the image that I showed you guys of the variations of nutrients across the field was one of the surprising pieces that I've looked at, is because we're technically measuring the nutrient availability to the plant from the soil. And when you go across the field, it may look okay, but we're seeing it before it gets under stress. And so that is why I like seeing a kind of a grid pattern across the field when you first go out there to take a look. And it doesn't necessarily match up to your soil test or your soil zones of whether the plant is taking up the nutrients appropriate for its growth stage. And that's one of the key things is even if you can't do something about it, you start gaining a better understanding that maybe these areas of the field we need to do something biologically rather than even foliar feed eventually as we go through. So it's about understanding what's happening and what is bioavailable to the plant. Does that answer the question, Jared? Like I said, just get in the field, and it doesn't take much longer to do that. And it puts you right into that field looking at the plants.
So yeah, I was thinking that that answers part of it. I was thinking about an observation you made about possibly made about boron that you mentioned. If that's something you're comfortable discussing, and if there's any others kind of like that.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that as I look through the trends, I'm curious. I probably could do this. You just triggered a thing because we looked at the sufficiency components of it, and as I look at all the scans across all of the areas on corn, for instance, if I look across, you guys get to see something dynamically right now. I'm gonna share this with you just because that question just spurred. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's coming up. There you go.
Across all of the scans that were taken this last year in corn, this is the sufficiency table for every scan. And overall, you will look at potassium, manganese, and iron, boron being a little bit lower, but they're still in the green based upon, I'm going to put it here instead of all growth stages, I'm going to call it a V7, V6 to be here. It's chugging through 100,000 scans, so it's changing the numbers here a little bit. So sulfur, manganese, and boron are probably at the lower end of nitrogen content across all the scans that we took this last year. That's an interesting piece to take a look at when we look at across the U.S., all the corn plants that we scanned based upon a growth stage sufficiency levels during a V7 to VT, essentially. Does that help at all, Jared, as far as what do we look at? What are kind of things that zinc looks in pretty good shape across all the samples that we pulled this last year?
So, John, the other thing that was brought up yesterday was that each person using this scanner in specific geographies. So I talked to a guy at Commodity whose yield expectations for corn was 50 bushels to an acre. You talk to somebody in Illinois and it might be 270 bushels. That can you talk to the fact that they can set their own sufficiency levels depending on geography?
Yeah, and that's what the beauty of our sufficiency tables are. User-defined sufficiency tables allow you to adjust to what your goals are, because the high yield guys are going to have much higher expectations than a lower yield person would be. But yield and economic values is what we're really looking towards. So yeah, that's the beauty of the sufficiency reporting, is it's all user defined, and you guys can decide which way you want to go with that. And that
And then
happens when we do the onboarding. That's when we take your input for those levels.
And can you talk a little bit more in detail to the integration with Fieldalytics, maybe how that works, the additional cost if somebody needs or wants the Fieldalytics mapping?
Sure. With Fieldalytics, we've been working with them over the last several months that the data from our data from Power BI is easily exported through a CSV file. Then in our work with Fieldalytics software is a separate package that, not a package, but you guys can acquire. We can help facilitate that. It costs about $3,500, I think, for a year for a subscription. And what it does, it allows you to quickly import. And then we literally have written the book on how to import it, set up your zones and your sufficiency tables so you can get a user-defined sufficiency map. And then there's a prescriptive side of it that says if your nutrients are above or below these levels, you use these products. And then it will give you a prescription based upon that input. And then you can then create an application map based upon what your limitations would be. So if you have a drone, you have the ability to do more spot treatment, and it allows you to take and make a spread application based upon your limitations of you can only put one product on or two different rates. It allows you the capability to do that. And that is a really good tool if you're providing services to the growers. It's an added tool in your toolbox to give them more value. It's just like with the scanning, with the data collection in the field. So it's a nice package. It pulls it together so that when you hit the edge of the field after scanning, you can generate an automated report through Fieldalytics that you can deliver and or act upon with your growers.
So John, that doesn't have to be Fieldalytics, right? If they have software that can take the CSV file, can they use any software then?
Yeah, we just haven't dealt with those other softwares, and we would like to talk with you separately about those, of which ones you're using, mainly because most of the crop management softwares are not used to handling the high data density of tissue sampling. And we kind of have to trick it and put the data that we're collecting into a soils template. And so
Okay.
those are some things we got to look at in making it understand what's being, because the sufficiency tables and the data density and the frequency is, we're generally doing a soil test every week and our sufficiency tables change. So those things that we have to kind of trick it for now as we're working with some of these software companies in the future.
Can you provide us the contact person for Fieldalytics, or would you prefer someone contact you first? How do you want that process to work?
We can, what we'll do then is we'll provide it to your team, the contact person. Or if you can't, just contact either or, and we'll get that person's name and information across Fieldalytics, because we've got a couple people with them that are in different regions. So we'll help sort that out for them.
Okay, so anybody needs the Fieldalytics contact, we'll get that for you and send it out to you. Any other questions?
I think the only other clarification, if you guys take this on, the scanning as a service, what generally is going on is that you're charging about $1.50 an acre to provide this service to a grower per time that they go through the field. And $1.50 an acre, it pays for the scanner and it pays for personnel out there to do it. And then highly recommended at least a 2 to 6 passes across that field, depending on what the goals are. And so you can add a service to the people from a just scouting purposes. Then as a sales tool, it allows you to go to and show the grower, this is where the nutrients are today. And that immediate gratification of being able to put a number with what's going on in that field is very powerful, and it helps you position and target the correct product to mitigate those issues. And that's a really key component, is proper placement of the products so that you get the best results. And then you can come back in afterwards and say, this is what we did, here's where the values changed. And that just reassures the grower that you're putting the right products the right place and getting the expected result. And that is, you as a sales tool, you're able to do the right placement, and then it improves your ability to put the products where they matter the most and get the most return from. And it's a good source all the way around that way. So that's just a suggestion as you're working through that. Okay.
All right. So again, we encourage you to visit our website, newfieldsag.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be reminded also that we have a podcast that you can find, Innovations in Your Fields podcast, as you can see behind on this side. The Innovations in Your Fields podcast that is on Apple, it's on Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. So you can find different podcasts from Newfields Ag there as well. As always, we hope to see you here for further webinars. This is the last Wednesday morning webinar for a while. We hope to have intermittent webinars throughout the year as important topics pop up. So look for those announcements down the road. But thank you for joining us through this series, January, February, March, and have a great spring. Be safe and have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining us.